Do you ever wonder why U.S. Navy sailors never step on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier? What is the reason behind this strict rule? Is it to ensure the safety of the sailors, pilots, and aircraft? Or is it to maintain the smooth operation of flight operations? What would happen if a sailor accidentally walked onto the flight deck during flight operations? Would it cause chaos and put lives in danger? Join us as we explore the reasons behind this strict policy and the importance of following it on an aircraft carrier. The flight deck of an aircraft carrier is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Aircraft taking off and landing, missiles being launched, and jet engines roaring make it a high-risk environment for anyone who doesn't have proper training and equipment. The flight deck of an aircraft carrier is not only a high-risk environment, but it's also an incredibly busy and complex one. The flight deck crew must manage and direct the launch and recovery of aircraft, ensuring that each aircraft is in the correct position and that the takeoff or landing occurs safely and smoothly. The flight deck is also where weapons and ammunition are handled and loaded onto aircraft, adding another layer of danger to the already hazardous environment. Given the sheer amount of activity on the flight deck, the risks of accidents and injuries is very high. The possibility of collision with aircraft, exposure to jet exhaust, and the threat of falling overboard are just some of the many hazards that sailors face when working on the flight deck. Due to these risks, only qualified and trained personnel are allowed on the flight deck during operations. This means that sailors who are not part of the flight deck crew must stay clear of the area and follow strict safety protocols to ensure their own safety and the safety of those working on the flight deck. It's also worth noting that the flight deck crew undergoes extensive training and certification before being allowed to work on the flight deck. This includes training in firefighting, damage control, and other critical skills necessary to respond to emergencies on the flight deck. Given the level of risk and the specialized training required to work on the flight deck, it's understandable why sailors who are not part of the flight deck crew are prohibited from accessing the area during operations. The safety and security of everyone on board the carrier depending on the rigorous adherence to these rules and protocols. To keep sailors safe, the U.S. Navy has established strict rules about who can enter the flight deck area. Only authorized personnel, such as flight deck crew members, pilots, and aviation support personnel, are allowed on the flight deck. One of the most significant risks of entering the flight deck is the risk of being struck by an aircraft. A moving aircraft's wingspan is enormous, and the force it generates when taking off or landing can easily throw someone off balance and cause them to fall overboard. Additionally, the intense heat and noise from the jet engines can be harmful to those who are not wearing proper protective gear. In 1998, a sailor on board the USS Nimitz made the mistake of stepping onto the flight deck without proper authorization. While attempting to cross the flight deck, the sailor was struck by the wing of an F-14 Tomcat and tragically lost his life. In addition to the physical dangers, the flight deck of an aircraft carrier can expose sailors to harmful chemicals and materials. Jet fuel, hydraulic fluid, and other hazardous substances are regularly used on the flight deck during aircraft operations. These substances can pose severe health hazards if not handled properly. Jet fuel, for example, contains toxic chemicals like benzene and toluene, which can cause headaches, dizziness, and nausea in sailors who are exposed to them. Prolonged exposure to these chemicals can also cause more severe health problems such as liver and kidney damage. Hydraulic fluid is another hazardous substance commonly used on the flight deck. It contains chemicals like lead, chromium, and cadmium, which can cause a variety of health problems, including lung damage and cancer. To protect themselves from these hazards, sailors who work on the flight deck must wear personal protective equipment, such as gloves, goggles, and respirators. They must also undergo extensive training on how to handle and store these substances safely. Given the risks associated with the flight deck, it's no wonder that sailors are prohibited from entering it without proper training and equipment. The Navy takes the safety of its sailors very seriously and goes to great lengths to ensure that everyone who works on the flight deck is trained and equipped to handle the dangers they may encounter. Finally, the flight deck is a highly regulated area, and unauthorized personnel can easily disrupt the critical operations taking place. Even something as simple as a sailor accidentally dropping a tool or piece of equipment can cause significant damage to an aircraft or endanger the lives of those around them. So, there you have it, folks. The reasons why U.S. Navy sailors never get on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier are pretty clear. It's simply too dangerous for anyone without proper training and equipment to be there. The potential for injury or even death is too high. Do you have any other questions about life on an aircraft carrier or the U.S. Navy in general? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video informative, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more exciting content. Thanks for watching.